Good afternoon, everybody. This is Keith with Spreadsheet Sports. Got a big night tonight. What I want to do right now is kind of gear away from the plays that we do on big tournament nights. We got kind of a smaller slate tonight as far as MLB games. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of the stuff that I use on a day in and day out basis to make my optimal cash game and GPP lineups. So that's going to be something that we're going to look for and do right here. What I want to do is go over last night's GPP lineup. You can see that it was a higher scoring line or night in the DFS world. And if you didn't have the Cubs who put up 17 runs, then you were going to finish middle of the pack. So this is a lineup that I used in a lot of my cash games and head-to-heads, and obviously threw it in some GPPs, which I always strongly recommend doing because it seems like when we go for the chalk plays or the safe plays, they tend to score a lot of higher, more consistency because they're not as boom or bust. So obviously, with the Astros in Colorado and Coors Field, that's always going to be in play. And you can see that I have four players from that game. I've got Jason Castro here behind the plate, Chris Carter at first base, Troy Tulowitzki and Nolan Arenado. And if you read my article yesterday, you know I'm a huge Colorado Rockies fan. So this is something that I take into account every time they're in Coors. And I even take into account more in GPPs when they're not in Coors because they're typically lower owned. I'm actually very, very shocked. This was in the $5 rally last night. I'm very shocked that the Coors ownership was so low. I think what people are starting to do is they're starting to try to get smart, and they're outsmarting themselves and going with the strategy of fading Coors completely. So, or just sprinkling in guys instead of loading up on just that one game. So this is something that I looked for. And I've kind of taken note this season, and I'll be watching it as the season goes along too, especially going to the summer months where it starts to get a little bit warmer and the ball starts jumping out of Coors Field. So I want to start with Michael Pineda. I figured he was in my write-up yesterday, and I figured he would be a little bit lower owned just because of the fact that he has had a couple rocky starts in the last couple days. And the Miami Marlins cannot hit right-handed pitching, and we went through that. He obviously did very, very well. 18.66 points, which is very, very good for a starting pitcher. Anytime you can get over 15 to 17 points from your starting pitcher, it's extremely good. Obviously, with Clayton Kershaw going last night and Felix Hernandez, who was actually only 3% owned in this tournament, and a lot of other aces you had going on. Excuse me. You have lower ownership as far as a lot of the what I call the higher end mid tier starting pitchers. So Michael Pineda was on my radar, and he was my target. And our spreadsheet actually loved Michael Pineda last night going against the Marlins. So obviously Jason Castro, anytime he's hitting in Coors Field, he's going to receive a bump. The Astros are the epitome of what we like to call GPP plays. They strike out at an enormous rate, almost a 25% clip, and they also hit home runs. I heard a stat last night that I think it was just under 50% of their runs have been scored on home runs, and they hit 4 again last night. So you had Jason Castro, who was there. He was kind of middle of the tier. And then Chris Carter, who actually hit a late 2-run home run, which was kind of nice to kind of boost this lineup up. You'll see the only negative player in this lineup was actually Ryan Flaherty, and I still like the choice of Ryan Flaherty at 2,200. He was batting towards the lower part of the lineup, but he also came up with the bases loaded and 1 out. I believe in the third or fourth inning. It was a little bit towards the middle of the game, and he was in a good situation. He just didn't produce. So one of the thought processes I always go through is remembering that everything is just a process, and that as long as you trust your process, that it does pay off. You can alter it a little bit, but as long as you're comfortable with it, then that's a good thing. The big thing about this lineup was Nolan Arenado and Troy Tulowitzki. They were two of the higher end price players that I put in this lineup, besides my pitcher. And in order to finish in the top 5%, I needed to have big games from them. They had some shots, they had some chances. Troy Tulowitzki ended up striking out a couple times last night, and Nolan ended up getting robbed of a gap shot by George Springer. So that was something that was always is always in play because they drive the ball, and it's something that they've enjoyed doing a lot as well. So Travis Snyder, obviously you can see I kind of loaded up on Baltimore in the Colorado game. Baltimore has been swinging the bat very, very well lately, and usually when they get going and they get hot, they can put up runs in bunches. So Cole Calhoun was my value sneaky dark horse play, and the reason I say that is he's been kind of struggling a little bit lately as far as hitting for power, but he has been he was in a good spot last night, and he just didn't come through. So and then David Lowe, who whenever he gets an opportunity to be in that Baltimore lineup, especially right now with Adam Jones out, he's just absolutely produced. He could have had a couple more last night. The whole Baltimore lineup could have produced a little bit better, but that was something that I was still happy with. 50.66 points. Normally that's going to put you, if there's not a 17-0 outburst from the Cubs, then that's going to put you towards the top of the lineup or the top of your tournaments, and it's going to definitely cash in a lot of your 50-50s and double ups, and a lot of times it's going to take down almost every head-to-head. So I was really, really happy with this lineup. It was my top scoring lineup of the night, and that's what you're looking for, is just consistency, because you never really know exactly what's going to partake, especially in MLB with all the variants. So what I want to do now is I'm going to talk to you about our spreadsheet tool. If you go through here, we're going to go through and we're going to refresh the data. This is for today. The early games have already started, and I've got a couple satellites going, so that's always nice to do, but we're going to refresh that. Just going to take a couple seconds here. As this is going through. And obviously, guys, at any time, you can always tweet me at Boomer's DFS Daddy on Twitter. Leave some comments in the Google Plus section of the Spreadsheet Sports community. I'm always open to talk strategy. If you have any questions on how I approach things or what I do, then that is something that is obviously always in play. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to go to projections here, and I'm going to go to FanDuel because that's where I play a lot of my action, just because I think it's more reflective on how a MLB game is set up, using one pitcher and 8 position players. Not that I don't like DraftKings, I absolutely do, but FanDuel is where I end up spending most of my action. You can see I actually have this customized to show to highlight players, and what you can do is basically what I've done is I've taken this and I highlight AG, and I go to conditional formatting, color scales, and then I go highest is green and lowest is red. These are our basic settings right here. And what I do is for cash game lineups, I always go down here to batting order max, and I put in 5, not 56, 5, because they're going to get more at bats. And in cash games, it's extremely important that you maximize the at bats that you get. It doesn't always work, but the research has actually shown that you end up getting more out of your bats the more times they come to the plate, obviously. Then I can go down here to customize projections, this little filter tab, and I can go sort largest to smallest. It's going to pop up here, and it'll kind of show everything that goes through the day. This up here. And then go to hunches and exclusions. I've got Colby Rasmus already plugged in here because he hasn't returned from the bereavement list yet. So I don't want the spreadsheet to automatically put him in when I know he's not going to be in the lineup. So don't have to worry about it now because Houston game has already been locked on FanDuel. So I can go ahead and delete that. Obviously, you go through here and I take out all the early games, so that's good right there. This page right here is something that I utilize a lot as far as lineup guarantees, and I'll show you why here in just a little bit. If I want somebody in, I usually just type them in right here instead of using the locks and excluded over here on the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a base. You see I've actually highlighted over here as well. Small to large, and this is I've done it on projected value instead of points, and I'll show you why here in just a moment. So we're going to go there. We're going to run the model. It's going to pop up here. I'm going to press OK, and it is going to spit out our optimized lineup for the day. You see that we have a projection of 39.47, so we're actually looking at a lot of low totals, it looks like, in MLB. Which is something that would be quite nice for a change instead of having to hope that you pick the right stack or something like that. So we're going to go through here. I was showing somebody this last night, so going to go through there, make sure that's all good. We're going to run the model again, just to make sure we get this optimized lineup because it looked like there's some higher people in there. So, okay, so now we've got the optimized lineup in there. We can start going through and actually looking and making changes and progressions. So what I've done is I actually highlight right here B through G, and I go through and I click on filter. And the reason for that is I'm going to show you why here in just a second, and it's going to explain why I use the hunches and lineup guarantees over there. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to sort by largest to smallest on value. Oops. Let's go through here. We're going to take off blanks here so it actually does it. And you'll see that this pops up, the optimizer goes away. Don't worry about that, to be quite honest. We're going to do this here. Hold on. Okay, now let's do this. Click again. Now let's go largest to smallest. Okay, so it doesn't actually do that. So one of the things that I do is I'm always going to go through, and I still do a lot of writing down as far as my plays and stuff like that, just to see if my stats actually match up with what our tool is thinking. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and I click on position and I'm going to start highlighting positions. I'm going to start off with my pitchers. Okay. Pitchers are actually the biggest thing that we need to worry about and focus on as far as DFS MLB. And you'll see that Danny Salazar obviously is going to be our highest valued pitcher of the day. He's also looks like our third highest projected pitcher of the day, 14, 13. Yeah. So he's my best value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to hunches and exclusions. I'm going to put in Danny Salazar, and I'm going to click on that right there. And the way I kind of think of a lot of things is kind of like how a MLB manager would. When I go to first base here, I'm going to want power. Power is something that is huge. Eric Hosmer, he's been an absolute stud value lately. But you'll see here that Adrian Gonzalez, he's just right underneath Eric Hosmer. And he's a very, very good value. Plus, he's projected to score a couple extra points with only $200 difference in salary. And I don't mind going up 200 as far as the salary is concerned, just because of the fact that that's not a lot. And it's not something that, unless I've got a top tier pitcher like Clayton Kershaw going, that I'm going to be looking to actually worry about. So I go down here and I'm going to put in Adrian Gonzalez. And I only really do about 2 or 3 of these lineup guarantees. And the reason for that is you want the spreadsheets to and the model and the optimizer to still be able to work. Okay. And then I'm going to run down here and I'm going to go to third base. Third base is another big power position that is big in the MLB. So you go through here, you start looking, okay, Moustakas, 2,800, Erasmus Ramirez, who's been slumping 20 or 24, Donaldson, who's been slumping 24. Nothing I really like right here. Maybe a Josh Harrison, but not at 36. Todd Frazier, I know he hit a walk-off grand slam last night, and he's probably the second best right-handed hitter in the game right now, but not somebody I want to look to spend. So I'm going to go here to outfield, which is going to give me a lot more choices, and I'm going to start going through. It looks like Gregory Polanco is going to be our best value. So, and he's very, very, very cheap across the industry. So that looks like a really, really good play for me. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to type in Gregory Polanco. Make sure I spelled that right. Yeah. So we're going to do that here. And then we are going to go back and click select all. And the reason we want to do this is so everything pops back up. Now I've got my 3 lineup guarantees, and you can see they're highlighted here to make sure that the optimizer puts them in. I'm going to run my model. And something I'll do for my GPPs too is off of my guarantees that I've put in, I'll go through here and I'll alternate stacks and stuff. You can go in here and you put like LA Dodgers 3, Pittsburgh Pirates 2, and that'll give you a little bit more of a boomer bust as far as GPPs are concerned. But now you're looking at an optimal lineup that I'll probably use in my head-to-heads. Make sure I've got everything. And obviously, as lineups change and we keep updating the spreadsheet through the lineup, as the lineups are released, then that is something that will obviously change this as it goes through. So you can see I've got a couple, I've got another Dodger in here in 2 more actually in Howie Kendrick and Yasiel Puig. And then I've got, it looks like Mookie Betts and Jose Reyes and Kyle Seager in there, as well as Yasmani Grandal. So it looks like this is actually auto-produced a Dodger stack, which is kind of nice. That means I don't have to go in and put it in there automatically. So this is actually a lineup that I wouldn't mind throwing in a lot of GPPs as well, instead of just one to hope that it sticks. So I'll have more tips and tricks on how I use the tool coming up in the later days. Probably do another optimal lineup run through tomorrow. Give you a little bit more insight on how I do things and how everything kind of works as far as me. So for Spreadsheet Sports, this is Keith, and good luck to everybody in tonight's games.